Captain Hana stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the vast darkness of space. Her ship floated quietly at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, far from any planet or station. The bridge was small and simple, with only 6 crew members at their posts. The lights were dim, and everything felt calm. But Hana knew this calm would not last long. "Captain," said Yuna from the communications station. Her voice was steady, but Hana could hear the worry underneath. "Long range. Sensors are picking up movement. It's big." Hana nodded and walked over to look at Yuna's screen. The display showed hundreds of dots moving through space toward them. Each dot was a ship. Enemy ships. Valdarian ships. "How many?" Hana asked. 312 ships, Captain," answered Jaemin from the tactical station. "Dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, and carrier ships. It's their entire grand fleet." Minho looked up from his engineering console. "Captain, that's enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Why would they send so many ships just for us?" Hana smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Because they think we're weak. They think one human ship means we're desperate or stupid." The Indomitable was not a big ship. It was only 300 meters long, much smaller than the massive Valdarian dreadnoughts that stretched over 2 kilometers. To anyone looking at it, the human ship seemed ordinary. Its hull was smooth and gray, with no obvious weapons or armor. It looked like a simple transport ship, not a warship. "Captain," Yuna said, "we're getting a transmission from the Valdarian fleet." "Put it on screen." The main display flickered, and the face of Admiral Kairos appeared. He was a Valdarian with pale blue skin and 4 eyes that glowed with anger. His uniform was covered in medals, and his voice was deep and commanding. "Human vessel," Admiral Kairos said, "you are surrounded by the grand fleet of the Valdarian Empire. Your pathetic single ship cannot hope to fight us. You have 1 hour to abandon your vessel and surrender. If you refuse, we will destroy you. Fi." Transmission ended. The bridge was quiet for a moment. 1 hour, said Dongho from the pilot station. "That's generous of them." "They want to give us time to think about how hopeless our situation is," Hana said. "They want us to be afraid." Wu Jin, the navigation officer, turned in his chair. "Captain, should we send a message back to Earth? Let them know what's happening?" "No need," Hana said. "Earth already knows. They've been watching this fleet for weeks." This was true. Human technology was far more advanced than the Valdarians realized. Invisible probes had been following the enemy fleet since it left Valdarian space. Every move, every plan, every order had been recorded and sent back to Earth. "Captain," Minho said, "the Prometheus protocol systems are ready. All tests show green." Hana nodded. The Prometheus protocol was why they were here. It was why Earth had sent only 1 ship to face an entire fleet. The Indomitable was not just a ship. It was a test, a demonstration, a message. "What about the crew?" asked Yunji from the secondary communications station. "Have they been told what we're really doing here?" "They know enough," Hana said. "They know we're not here to run away." The 47 crew members of the Indomitable were all volunteers. Each one had been chosen carefully. They were not just the best at their jobs. They were people who understood what this mission meant for humanity's future. 30 minutes until their deadline, Jaemin reported. Through the bridge windows, they could see nothing but stars. But the sensors showed the truth. The Valdarian fleet was moving into position, surrounding them like a pack of wolves around. A lone deer. Their ships were massive and powerful, with thick armor and weapons that could melt steel. "Captain," Yuna said, "the Valdarians are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're telling us about their weapons and how they plan to use them. They want us to be scared." "Let them talk," Hana said. "Fear is a powerful weapon, but only if your enemy doesn't understand what they're really facing." Admiral Kairos believed he was about to win an easy victory. His fleet had been preparing for this moment for months. The Valdarians had been at war with humanity for 5 years, and they had won most of the battles. Human colonies had fallen. Human ships had been destroyed. The Valdarian Empire thought they were close to total victory, but they had never faced a ship like the Indomitable. 10 minutes, Captain, Jamin said. Hana looked around at her crew. Each person was focused on their work, preparing for what was coming. Minho was running final checks on the ship's power systems. Dongho was calculating flight paths. So Young was at the weapons station, her hands moving over controls that looked nothing like normal ship weapons. Captain, Yuna said, message from Earth. Command wants to know if we're ready. Tell them yes, Hana said. Yuna typed quickly, then paused. Captain, they're asking if we want backup. The 7th Fleet is only 2 days away. Tell them no. 1. Ship is enough. This was the point. Humanity could have sent a fleet. They could have sent 100 ships or 1,000 ships, but they chose to send one, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough that one ship was all they needed. Time's up, Captain, Jamin said. On the main screen, they could see the Valdarian fleet moving into attack formation. The massive ships spread out in a perfect pattern, their weapons charging with bright energy. Admiral Kiros had 300 ships. Hana had 1. All stations battle ready, Hana said, calmly. Battle ready, aye, came the responses from around the bridge. Captain, Minho said, the Prometheus systems are online. All quantum fields are stable. Good. Yuna, open a channel to the Valdarian fleet. Channel open, Captain. Hana stepped forward, looking directly at the camera that would send her image to Admiral Kairos. Admiral Kairos, she said, this is Captain Hana of the human vessel Indomitable. You offered us 1 hour to surrender. We decline. You may begin your attack when ready. She nodded to Yuna, who closed the channel. Captain, Dongho said, sensors show the enemy ships are moving to attack positions. Let them come, Hana said. It's time to show them what one human ship can do. Admiral Kiros stared at the small human ship on his main display. The Indomitable hung in space like a tiny fish surrounded by sharks. His 300 ships had formed a perfect circle around it, each one pointing their weapons at the human. Vessel! All ships! Prepare to fire! Kairos commanded into his communications system. The bridge of his flagship destroyer of worlds was filled with activity. Officers moved between stations, checking weapons and shields. Everyone was excited. This would be the easiest victory in Valdarian history. Admiral, said his tactical officer, all ships report ready. We have enough firepower focused on that ship to destroy a small moon. Good, Kairos said. Make sure there's nothing left. I want to send a clear message to the humans about what happens when they fight the Valdarian Empire. On the Indomitable, Captain Hana watched the enemy ships on her tactical display. Each red dot represented a massive warship with enough weapons to level a city. Soon, all those weapons would fire at once. Captain, Jamin said from his tactical station, I'm reading energy buildup on all enemy ships. They're charging their main weapons. How long until they fire? Hana asked. 30 seconds, Captain. Hana looked over at Minho. Are the quantum displacement fields ready? Ready and waiting, Captain, Minho replied. His fingers hovered over his controls, ready to activate systems that the Valdarians had never seen before. 15 seconds, Jamin announced. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Everyone knew what was about to happen. The largest fleet in Valdarian history was about to fire every weapon at their single ship. 10 seconds, Jamin said. 5 seconds. Firing! On Admiral Kairos's flagship, the order went out across all frequencies. All ships, fire! 300 Valdarian warships fired at once. Plasma cannons, laser batteries, missile launchers, and particle beams, all focused on the tiny human ship. The space around the Indomitable lit up like a star as enough energy to destroy a planet rushed toward it. Admiral Kairos smiled. No ship could survive that much firepower. The humans had made a terrible mistake. Impact in 3 seconds. reported. His tactical officer, Kairos, watched the screen, waiting to see the human ship explode into a million pieces. But something was wrong. The weapons hit empty space. "What happened?" Kairos demanded. "Where is the human ship?" His tactical officer was frantically checking his instruments. "Sir, the ship was there when we fired. I don't understand. Our weapons hit the exact location, but there was no impact. No explosion. Nothing." On the Indomitable, Jimin smiled as he watched his displays. "Quantum displacement field is working perfectly, Captain. We're currently existing in a phase-shifted dimension. Their weapons passed right through the space we appear to occupy." "Excellent," Hana said. "Now show them what human weapons can do. So-young, you may fire when ready." So-young nodded and activated her console. "Molecular disruptor cannons are online, Captain. Target acquired." The weapons on the Indomitable were not like normal ship weapons. They did not fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, they reached across space itself and changed things at the atomic level. "Firing," So-young said calmly. Admiral Kiros was still, trying to understand where the human ship had gone when his world exploded. Not his ship. His world. Across the Valdarian fleet, 67 ships suddenly erupted in massive explosions. But these explosions came from inside the ships, not from weapons hitting their hulls. "Report!" Kairos shouted over the alarms that were now screaming across his bridge. "Sir, the plasma charges in our weapon base just exploded," his tactical officer yelled. "Not just on our ship, but on dozens of ships across the fleet. The humans somehow made our own weapons blow up while they were still inside our ships." Kairos watched in horror as ship after ship disappeared in bright flashes. These were not small explosions. When a ship's main weapon storage exploded, it took the entire vessel with it. "How is this possible?" he whispered. On the Indomitable, So-young was calmly explaining to Captain Hana what had just happened. "The molecular disruptor cannons can destabilize atomic bonds from a distance, Captain. I targeted the plasma charges in their weapon storage areas while they were still contained inside their ships. The energy had nowhere to go except through their own hulls." "How many ships?" Hana asked. 67 destroyed, Captain," Jamin reported. "No survivors detected." Minho looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, should I drop the quantum displacement field? Let them see us again?" "Yes. It's time for the next lesson." The Indomitable suddenly appeared on Admiral Kiros's sensors, again sitting in exactly the same place it had been before, as if nothing had happened, as if 300 ships had not just fired enough weapons to destroy a planet at it. "Sir," his communications officer said, "the human ship is sending us a message." "Put it on screen," Kiros said. Captain Hana's face appeared on the main display. She looked calm and relaxed, as if she had not just survived the largest weapons, barrage in galactic history. "Admiral Kairos," she said, "your weapons cannot hurt us, but ours can hurt you. You have lost 67 ships. You still have 245 left. Would you like to lose more?" The transmission ended. Kiros stared at the screen in shock. The human captain had spoken as if destroying 67 warships was as easy as swatting flies. And the terrible thing was, she was right. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kairos looked at the tactical display. His once mighty fleet now had large gaps where ships used to be. The human ship sat in the center, small and peaceful looking. But he now knew that this small ship had weapons and defenses that his people could not understand. "Reform the fleet," he said finally. "Tighter formation. Maybe if we fire from closer range." But even as he gave the order, Admiral Kiros was beginning to understand a terrible truth. The humans had not sent one ship because it was all they had. They had sent one ship because one ship was enough. On the Indomitable, Captain Hana turned to her crew. "They're regrouping," she said. "They think closer range will help them. Shall we show them their mistake?" "Ready when you are, Captain," So-young said, her hands already moving over her weapons controls. Dong-ho, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Show them how a human ship moves. Aye, Captain. Gravity manipulation drive is ready. Hana smiled. The Valdarians thought this was a battle. They were wrong. This was a lesson, and the lesson was just beginning. Admiral Kiros watched his remaining ships move into a tighter formation around the human vessel. 245 warships now formed a metal wall closing in on the Indomitable. This time he would not make the same mistake. All ships, move to point-blank range, he commanded. If their weapons can reach across space, then we need to be close enough that they cannot miss us when we fire back. His tactical officer nodded. Yes, sir. At this range, even if they have some kind of shield technology, the sheer amount of energy should overwhelm any defense. Kairos had been fighting space battles for 30 years. He had never seen weapons like the humans used, but he understood basic principles. Every shield had limits. Every defense could be broken if you hit it hard enough. On the Indomitable, Dong-ho watched the enemy ships approaching on his display. They were moving slowly but steadily, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. Captain, he said, they're trying to surround us at close range. Looks like they want to make sure we can't avoid their next attack. Let them get close, Hana replied. When they're ready to fire, show them how a human ship moves. Aye, Captain. The Valdarian ships continued to close in. 5 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 1 kilometer. The Indomitable sat quietly in the center of this metal cage, making no move to escape. All ships in position, reported Kiros's tactical officer. We have them completely surrounded. There's nowhere for them to run. Excellent. All ships prepare to fire on my command. This time Kiros would not give the humans any warning. His weapons were already charged and ready. At this range, even if the human ship could somehow avoid the energy beams, the explosions alone would destroy it. All ships, fire! Once again, 300 weapons fired at once. But this time, they were firing from less than a kilometer away. The space between. The ships filled with deadly energy, but the Indomitable was not there anymore. Where did it go? Kairos shouted. Sir, it just appeared behind the 7th Squadron, his tactical officer reported. 3,000 kilometers away. I don't understand how it moved that fast. On the Indomitable, Dong-ho calmly explained what he had done. Gravity manipulation drive, Captain. Instead of moving through space, we reshape space around us. From our perspective, we never moved at all. We just convinced the universe that we were somewhere else. Beautiful work, Hana said. Now, Nari, deploy the nanomachine clouds. Science Officer Nari activated her console. Nanomachine deployment. In progress, Captain. Target, the ships that just fired at our previous position. Admiral Kiros was still trying to understand how the human ship had moved when new alarms started screaming across his bridge. Sir, something is wrong with the hull, his engineering officer reported. Sections 7 through 12 are showing structural problems. What kind of problems? The metal is changing, sir. It's like it's dissolving, but turning into something else. Kairos looked at his tactical display and felt his blood turn cold. Across his fleet, 12 ships were beginning to change. Their hulls were turning gray and soft, like the metal was rotting. It's spreading, the engineering officer yelled. Whatever this is, it's moving to other parts of the ship. On other ships across the fleet, the same thing was happening. The nanomachines released by the Indomitable were microscopic robots. Too small to see, but powerful enough to break down metal at the atomic level. They infected the Valdarian ships like a disease, turning their own hulls into more nanomachines. Sir, the brave defender is requesting immediate evacuation, Kairos's communications officer reported. Their entire hull is dissolving. They have maybe 10 minutes before life support fails. Grant the evacuation request, Kairos said. All ships, stay away from the infected vessels. But it was too late. The nanomachines had already spread to 17 ships, and the number was growing. Each infected ship became a source of more nanomachines, spreading the infection to any vessel that came too close. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "we're losing entire ships to this, whatever it is. How do we fight an enemy that can turn our own ships against us?" Kairos had no answer. In 30 years of warfare, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just using advanced technology. They were using technology that seemed impossible. "Sir, I'm reading energy buildup around the human ship," the tactical officer continued. "They're preparing something else." On the Indomitable, Wujin was activating the temporal anchor fields. "Captain, the temporal fields are online. I'm creating a bubble around the entire battle space." "What will that do?" Hana asked. "Time will move differently inside the bubble than outside. Any ship that tries to escape will find that they cannot reach the edge. From their perspective, they'll be flying toward the boundary forever, but never quite getting there." "And ships outside the bubble? They won't be able to get in to help. We've essentially isolated this entire battle from the rest of the universe." Admiral Kairos felt a new kind of fear when his navigation officer reported the impossible readings. "Sir, our ships are trying to retreat, but they can't reach the edge of the system. It's like space itself is wrong somehow. The distance to the system boundary keeps getting longer no matter how fast we fly." "That's impossible," Kairos said. "Yes, sir, but it's happening anyway." 23 ships had now been consumed by the nanomachine infection. The remaining 222 ships were trapped in a bubble of twisted space-time, unable to escape or get help. "Captain," Jamin said on the Indomitable, "the enemy fleet is starting to panic. Their formation is breaking down. Some ships are trying to ram us." "Let them try," Hana said. "Dongho, if any ship gets too close, simply move us somewhere else." "Aye, Captain." A massive Valdarian dreadnought came charging toward the Indomitable, its captain hoping to destroy the human ship by crashing into it. At the last second, Dongho activated the gravity drive. The dreadnought smashed into empty space while the Indomitable appeared calmly behind it. "Sir," Kairos's communications officer said, "Captain Zarex of the Deathbringer is requesting permission to ram the human ship." "Denied," Kairos said quickly. "We've already seen that won't work." "Then what do we do, sir?" Kairos stared at the tactical display. His fleet was trapped, infected, and helpless. The human ship moved through space like it owned the laws of physics. Their weapons could reach across vast distances and destroy his ships from the inside. They had technology that turned his own vessels against him. And this was just one ship. "Sir," his intelligence officer said quietly, "if this is what one human ship can do, what would happen if they sent a whole fleet?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Admiral Kairos had brought the entire Valdarian Grand Fleet to destroy one small human vessel. Instead, he was watching his fleet be taken apart piece by piece by an enemy that seemed to come from a completely different level of technological development. "Captain," Yunji said on the Indomitable, "I'm receiving multiple surrender offers from individual Valdarian ships." "Not yet," Hana replied. "They need to understand completely what they're facing. Admiral Kairos still thinks this is a battle he can win. It's time to show him the truth." Admiral Kairos sat in his command chair, watching his fleet die. On his tactical display, red symbols marked the 31 ships that had been completely consumed by the nanomachine infection. Yellow symbols showed another 15 ships where the infection was spreading but had not yet reached critical systems. His remaining ships floated in space like wounded animals, afraid to move too close to each other, afraid to attack the human vessel, afraid to run. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we're receiving reports from across the fleet. Crew morale is not good." "Explain." "Sir, the crew members are asking how we're supposed to fight an enemy that can make our ships dissolve, that can appear and disappear at will, that can make space itself work differently. Some of the captains are requesting permission to surrender." Kairos closed his 4 eyes and tried to think. Everything he knew about warfare was useless here. The humans were not fighting by any rules he understood. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "the human ship is moving again." On the main display, the Indomitable was slowly flying toward the center of what remained of the Valdarian fleet. It moved calmly, like it was taking a peaceful tour instead of flying through a battle zone. "All ships, maintain distance from the human vessel," Kairos ordered. "Do not fire unless I give the command." He had learned that much, at least. Attacking. The human ship only resulted in more Valdarian ships being destroyed. On the Indomitable, Captain Hana looked around her bridge. "Yunji, prepare to transmit to the entire Valdarian fleet. Full spectrum broadcast." "Ready, Captain." "This time, we're not just going to talk to them. Show them what they're really facing." Yunji activated a system that the Valdarians had never seen before. Instead of just sending words and pictures, the human transmission would connect directly to their minds, showing them thoughts and images as clearly as if they were their own memories. Across the Valdarian fleet, every crew member suddenly saw inside their own minds something that made them understand how small their universe really was. They saw Earth, but not as they expected. The planet was surrounded by a shell of folded space that held cities bigger than their home worlds. Billions of humans lived in orbital habitats that existed in dimensions the Valdarians did not know were possible. They saw human children in schools, learning to manipulate matter at the atomic level as easily as Valdarian children learned to read. They saw human engineers building ships like the Indomitable in factories that compressed the industrial power of entire star systems into single buildings. They saw the truth that made Admiral Kiros feel sick with fear. Earth had thousands of ships like the Indomitable. The humans could have sent a fleet that would have destroyed the entire Valdarian Empire in hours. Instead, they had chosen to send one ship to make a point. "Turn it off," Kairos whispered. But the transmission continued. The Valdarians saw human space stretching across hundreds of star systems, all connected by technology that made faster-than-light travel look primitive. They saw planets where humans had learned to control gravity, time, and space itself. And they saw the most terrifying thing of all, humans who looked at the Valdarian Empire the way adults look at children playing with toy weapons. "Turn it off!" Kairos shouted. The transmission ended, but the damage was done. Across his fleet, Kairos could hear the sounds of crew members crying, screaming, or simply sitting in stunned silence. "Sir," his communications officer said, "I'm receiving surrender messages from 47 ships." "Denied," Kiros said automatically. "Sir, with respect, maybe we should consider—" "I said denied!" Kiros slammed his fist on his chair. "I will not surrender the Grand Fleet to one human ship." But even as he said it, Kiros knew he was lying to himself. The truth was that he had already lost. The only question now was how many more ships he would lose before admitting it. On the Indomitable, Security Chief Hyunwoo activated another system. "Captain, I'm ready to show them the surveillance data." "Do it." Across the Valdarian fleet, displays suddenly showed images that made their crews gasp in shock. These were pictures of Valdarian military bases, Valdarian shipyards, Valdarian government buildings. But the pictures had been taken from impossible angles, showing details that no spy satellite could see. "This is impossible," Admiral Kairos said. "These are classified military installations. Some of these bases are on planets deep inside our territory." The images kept coming. Secret weapon tests, private conversations between Valdarian military leaders, plans for attacks that had not yet been carried out. The humans had been watching everything. "Sir," his intelligence officer said, "according to the timestamp on these images, some of them were taken yesterday. The humans have been watching us in real time for who knows how long." Kiros felt like he was drowning. The Valdarian Empire's surprise attack had been known about by the humans for months, maybe years. Everything his people had planned, every secret they thought they had, every advantage they believed they possessed, It was all an illusion. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "if the humans knew we were coming, if they've been watching us this whole time, then why did they only send one ship? Why not destroy our fleet before it ever left Valdarian space?" That was the question that made Admiral Kairos finally understand what was happening. The humans could have destroyed the Valdarian Grand Fleet at any time. They could have ended the war years ago. They had chosen not to. This was not a battle. This was a lesson. "Captain," Jamin said on the Indomitable, "I'm reading massive stress fractures throughout the enemy fleet. Not in their ships, in their crews. Psychological breakdown is spreading faster than the nanomachine infection." "That's the point," Hana said. "Sometimes the most important victory is the one that happens inside the enemy's mind." "Captain," Yuna said, "Admiral Kairos is requesting a private communication channel." "Grant it." Admiral Kairos's face appeared on the main screen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. His 4 eyes were dull with defeat, and his voice was barely above a whisper. "Captain Hana," he said, "what do you want?" "I want you to understand," Hana replied. "Your empire attacked us because you thought we were weak. You thought one ship meant we were desperate. You were wrong." "Yes," Kairos said, "we were wrong about everything." "This fleet," Hana continued, "represents the entire military might of the Valdarian Empire. And we stopped it with one ship. Not because we had to, because we chose to." Kairos nodded slowly. "What happens now?" "Now you have a choice to make, Admiral. You can keep fighting and lose more ships, or you can accept the truth and end this." The communication channel closed. On his bridge, Admiral Kairos looked around at his officers. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders that he did not know how to give. "Sir," his tactical officer asked. Kairos looked at his tactical display one more time. 31 ships destroyed. 15 more dying from infection. 222 ships trapped in twisted space, unable to escape or get help. And in the center of it all, one small human ship that had done the impossible. "Prepare a fleet-wide transmission," he said finally. "Yes, sir." "All ships," Kairos said, his voice carrying across the entire Grand Fleet. "This is Admiral Kairos. Cease all hostile actions. Stand down all weapons. Prepare for surrender negotiations." The words felt like poison in his mouth, but they were the only words that could save what remained of his fleet. The words hung in space like a funeral bell. Admiral Kairos had just ordered the surrender of the greatest fleet in Valdarian history to a single human ship. Across his remaining vessels, crew members sat in stunned silence, trying to understand how their mighty empire had been brought to its knees so completely. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the human ship is responding." "Put it on screen." Captain Hana appeared on the main display. Her expression was calm, almost gentle. "Admiral Kairos, we accept your surrender. However, before we proceed, there is one more thing you need to see." Kairos felt a chill run through his body. What more could the humans possibly show him? What other impossible technology did they possess? On the Indomitable, Chief Medical Officer Isel looked up from her console. "Captain, the biological restoration field is ready. All parameters are set for full revival and repair. Are you certain?" "This will work?" Hana asked. "Completely certain, Captain. Human medical technology can restore life even after complete cellular breakdown. The Valdarian physiology is compatible with our systems." Hana nodded. "Then begin." Isul activated her console, and the Indomitable began to emit a strange, soft blue light. The light spread outward in all directions, passing harmlessly through the hulls of the Valdarian ships and touching every living thing in the area. On Admiral Kairos's flagship, the crew suddenly noticed something impossible happening to their instruments. Sir, the medical officer reported, I'm reading some kind of energy field affecting the entire fleet. It's not harmful. In fact, it seems to be healing injuries. What do you mean, healing? Sir, crewman Vetek broke his arm during the battle when we took that first hit. According to my scanners, his arm is now completely healed. Better than healed. It's like the injury never happened. Across the Valdarian fleet, crew members who had been hurt during the fighting found their wounds disappearing. Burns from electrical fires healed instantly. Broken bones knitted back together. Even old injuries from years past began to repair themselves. But that was not the most shocking thing that happened. Sir, Kairos's tactical officer said, his voice shaking, the ships that were destroyed by the nanomachine infection, they're coming back. On the main display, Kairos watched in amazement as the 31 ships that had been completely consumed began to reappear. The nanomachines that had dissolved their hulls suddenly reversed their work, rebuilding the vessels exactly as they had been before the battle started. This is impossible, Kairos whispered. But it was happening. Not just the ships, but their crews as well. Thousands of Valdarian sailors who had died when their ships were destroyed were suddenly alive again, standing at their posts as if nothing had happened. Sir, his communications officer said, I'm receiving status reports from all the restored ships. Their crews are confused but alive and unharmed. On the Indomitable, So-Young looked up from her weapons console. Captain, I'm reading all 31 destroyed ships as fully operational. Life signs are normal. It's like the battle never happened to them. Excellent work, Isul, Hana said. How are the crews handling the experience? Surprisingly well, Captain. The restoration process includes memory adjustment to reduce trauma. They remember being destroyed, but without the fear and pain. Admiral Kairos stared at his tactical display. The 31 red symbols marking destroyed ships had turned green again. His fleet was whole. Every sailor who had died was alive. Every ship that had been destroyed was repaired. The humans had not just defeated his fleet, they had killed his people and then brought them back to life. Captain Hana, Kairos said over the communication channel. Why? Why did you restore our ships and crews? Hana's image appeared on his screen again. Because we wanted you to understand something important, Admiral. We could have destroyed your entire fleet. We chose not to. We could have left your people dead. We chose not to. The power to destroy is meaningless compared to the power to create and restore. I don't understand. Your empire has been at war with us for 5 years, Hana explained. You've attacked our colonies, destroyed our ships, killed our people. And today, you brought your entire fleet to destroy what you thought was one helpless human vessel. Kairos nodded. Yes. But we never wanted to destroy your empire, Admiral. We wanted to save it. The words hit Kairos like a physical blow. Save it? Your people have been told that humans are weak, that we are easy to defeat. Your leaders have been planning this war because they believed they could win it quickly and easily. They were wrong. On the Indomitable, engineer Seok-jin began powering down the exotic systems that had made the battle possible. Captain, I'm shutting down the quantum displacement fields, the gravity manipulation drive, and the temporal anchors. Our power output is returning to normal levels. Good. Let them see what we really are. For the first time since the battle began, the Indomitable appeared on Valdarian sensors as what it truly was, not just a simple frigate, but a vessel whose hull contained technology that compressed the industrial capacity of entire star systems into a single ship. Admiral, Kairos's sensor officer said, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the human ship. Sir, the power output from that vessel is greater than our entire fleet combined. How is that possible? Kairos was beginning to understand. The humans had not sent their weakest ship to face his fleet. They had sent one of their most powerful vessels disguised to look weak. Captain Hana, he said, your ship, it's not really a frigate, is it? The classification doesn't matter, Admiral. What matters is what you do with the knowledge you've gained today. Which is? You return to your empire, Hana said. You tell your leaders what you've seen here. You explain that the human race is not weak, not helpless, and not easy to defeat. You tell them that we have the power to destroy the Valdarian Empire completely, but we choose not to use it. And if they don't listen, then we'll send another ship to have another conversation. But next time, Admiral, we might not be so gentle. So, communication channel closed. Around the Indomitable, the temporal anchor fields began to dissolve. Space returned to normal, and the Valdarian ships found they could move freely again. Sir, Kairos' navigation officer reported, we can leave the system now. Whatever was trapping us here is gone. Admiral Kairos looked around his bridge at officers, who would never again think of humans as weak. He thought about the report he would have to write, the explanations he would have to give, the impossible things he would have to convince his superiors had really happened. Sir, his communications officer said, the human ship is transmitting a final message. Put it on screen. Captain Hana appeared one last time. Admiral Kiros, you brought 300 ships to fight one human vessel. We brought one ship to save 300 alien crews. Consider the difference carefully. The transmission ended. On the main display, the Indomitable began to move away from the Valdarian fleet. As it reached the edge of sensor range, it simply disappeared, vanishing back into human space as quietly as it had arrived. Admiral Kiros sat in his command chair for a long time, thinking about what had happened. His fleet was intact. His crews were alive. He had surrendered to a single enemy ship, and that ship had given him back everything he had lost. Sir, his tactical officer asked quietly, what are your orders? Set course for home, Kiros said. We have a report to write, and a war to end. As the Valdarian Grand Fleet turned toward home, every crew member understood that they were returning not as conquering heroes, but as witnesses to something that would change their empire forever. They had seen the true power of humanity, and they had learned that sometimes the greatest strength is choosing not to use your power at all. In the end, the fleet had expected a battle, but humanity had sent just one ship to teach them that there were things more important than winning wars, like ending them.